There we go. All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Humpday Hangouts. This is episode 401, and this is the 20th of July, 2022. Adam is out, I think, running in the woods again today. So I hope everything goes as planned and there won't be any storms or outages. On my end, things are pretty heated up here. I think we have like about 97 degrees Fahrenheit, and it's going to be couple quite some hot days coming up as well. I think till Sunday or something like that. So I'm staying pretty much most of the time inside, working, keeping myself busy, and hiding at some air-conditioned room if I can find one. Other than that, let's jump over to Bradley. How are you doing today?
Super busy, but here nonetheless. So I'm glad to be here. Episode 401.
Yep.
Pretty cool. Pretty cool. So what do we have for announcements? Adam's out preparing to move because he's moving again from the West Coast back to upstate New York again. So he went from upstate New York to the West Coast. Now he's moving from upstate New York, the West Coast back to upstate New York again. So he's ping-ponging back and forth across the country. So he's in the process of starting to move today, I believe. So that's why he's not here. But what's going on with you, Chris? And what do we got for announcements?
Maybe he will settle sometime in the middle. So we've been working pretty hard on the back end. I'm not sure if everyone knows, but we have a service that is called Local Fury. And I'm actually really excited about it because the results look pretty damn good at the moment. Bradley, you want to give some information about that out as well?
Well, it's a done-for-you service we've been developing for months, which is a combination of CTR signals. It's strictly for maps. It's only for Google Maps. So it's not like traditional CTR. It's engagement signals. Some of you are probably aware of Brock Meisner's course, which was for ranking Google business profiles with data manipulation. So a very unique strategy that he developed. And so we spent the last few months trying to automate as much as we can of that. It's not fully automated. There's still several manual components to it. But we put a lot of time and effort and money into it. And it's still in beta. We're still developing it. We're still working out some bugs and everything else, but it's getting better for sure. And we're hoping to launch in about 3 weeks or so. Like a soft launch just to our audience for now. But yeah, it's promising. I'm going to be working with the developer for the next couple of nights, trying to get some other bugs squashed and that kind of stuff to improve the service. But it's not an app. We're not going to be selling like the ability for people to come in and set up their own campaigns and all that. It's done for you. And the reason we want to do it that way is because number one, it's easier that way for, I think, most users. They don't have to go in and manage the campaigns. Also, most people do CTR stuff wrong. That, again, this is not CTR. There is a CTR component to it, but it is not just CTR because there's a bunch of tools out there that do that. But and most people get that wrong. So that's part of the reason why we didn't want to offer it as access to an app. Plus, there's manual components to it anyways that just at least we can't figure out a way to automate some of the stuff that we're doing. So we have to do it as a done-for-you service, which I think is better. It makes it easier on people. All they got to do is come submit their location details, set of keywords, and that's it. We handle the rest. So as I said, it's still in development. We still got some kinks to work out, but we're making progress, and we're hoping to do kind of a soft launch to our audience, our list on August 8th. So Monday, August 8th. So we'll see about that. If we'll announce that more aggressively as we get closer to that date.
Cool. Other than that, something else that is super exciting that is coming up on the 23rd and 24th of September. We got our live event called POFU Live coming up. It's going to be like a virtual event. And we will have all kinds of super exciting guest speakers and stuff who will present at that event. And it's kind of like the right time to get in right now and secure your early bird pricing. So I also posted a link below to check that out. Bradley, you want to talk about that as well, about POFU Live?
Oh yeah, man, I'm excited about that as well. this would be what, fifth annual Pofu
Yep,
Live? I think
exactly.
so.
Fifth one.
Fifth
Yeah.
one. So it'll be virtual again this year, though. We're not going to travel and do it live in person. It'll be live, but it will be virtual. But yeah, I'm super excited about that. The last year it turned out really, really good. It was our second year doing it virtually last year, I believe.
Yep.
But it turned out like the last 2 years have been really, really good events. We have the VIP event on Friday, which is like a beer tasting. It's a virtual beer tasting. It's a lot of fun. And that's it. What's great on the VIP event is, we do kind of like a virtual beer tour tasting event at like for the first hour and a half. And then after that, it's just like everybody's loosened up a bit because you've had a drink or two, and it's a lot of fun. We ended up spending like 4 hours on the Zoom call last year, and just, all kinds of different topics that we talked about, SEO stuff, but other stuff outside of that. It's just a lot of fun. And it's just a way to kind of break the ice prior to the event starting on Saturday morning. The training ends up being phenomenal. We've got some great guest speakers lined up already. Got a couple more that I'm reaching out to over the next week or two to see if we can secure a few others. And then obviously, we have the meat of the training the training that I'm going to be providing. My goal is, I already know what I'm going to be presenting on, and I'm hoping to have full SOPs developed for it too, for Pofu Live attendees, so that they'll get the system that I'm building, which is for local ranking. It's organic ranking for local projects. It doesn't require Google Business Asset. It's great if you have that, but it's a kind of a system for ranking locally in the organic section. If you have a Google Business Asset, it will augment or will help. But the whole reason I started developing this was to overcome the issue with not being able to verify Google Business Assets or locations profiles. Google Business profiles in America and US, they require video verifications like 90% of the time now. So, for people like me that have a pretty sizable lead gen business, that puts a pretty significant hurt, right? It restricts us from being able to continue growing a lead gen business. So I've been working on developing some additional ways, one of which is just focusing more on organic, but doing it in a very strategic way. And so I'm kind of developing some systems for that, not like some assets that I'll be able to share with the Pofu Live attendees, but also the SOPs for how to complete them, like how to implement them. So that's number one. But then the other thing that I've been doing to kind of overcome that is I've started getting back into Google Ads again for generating leads. I'm testing a few different processes or methods right now with Google Ads. I don't know that that'll be part of the Pofu Live presentation because I'm really focusing on the organic SEO part of it for that. But that gives me another reason to pitch the mastermind, because usually as I'm developing new things, like new methods like this, I talk about them in the mastermind during the mastermind webinars, which the next one for those next mastermind webinar is tomorrow. So yeah, I'm testing some Google Ad strategies as well. But all that is to say, Pofu Live is going to be great. I got 2 months to get what my plan is completed and everything developed for then. I think I can do it. I'm going to try my best. And if it's not fully complete, it will be at least partially complete and will be delivered to everybody that attends. And then generally about 3 months later, usually right after the first of the year, the Pofu Live stuff gets released into the mastermind. But it does make sense to join and attend, guys. There's a lot of benefits, a lot of perks that you get for joining the Pofu Live event. So I encourage you to join it.
Definitely. So as I said, like right now is the perfect time to get early bird pricing for the tickets. And just click the link and have a look. Other than that, what has been going on in the mastermind lately?
Great question. Okay, so a couple things. The directory authority positioning model. So I call it DAP for directory authority positioning. Why do I call it that? Well, because Dan Kennedy, he talks about stop prospecting and start positioning, right? Positioning is better than prospecting. If you position yourself as an authority, an expert in a particular industry, a particular field, then clients, customers, businesses in that field will seek you out. And so the directory kind of stuff that I've developed over the last 2 years, I've condensed everything down into SOPs. There's a total of 7 SOPs. 6 of them have been released. The 7th one is in progress. I was hoping to have that done by this Friday, July 22nd. It's not going to happen. It will be done sometime within a week of Friday. So by Friday the 29th at the latest, it will be available, but most likely it will be released sometime early next week. But that said, that whole kind of system that I developed has been incredibly valuable for my business. And what's great about it is I've not been prospecting with the directory for my tree service agency, my tree service marketing agency, because I've been working on building my link building business, and I've got something to share about that in a minute. But I redid my directory theme. Like I replaced it with the theme, the plugin that I use for in the training, the SOPs. I did not want to train how to build the directory on the theme that I had been using for Tree Care HQ, because it was just significant problems with the theme and the developers and all that. And so even though it was a great looking theme, it was a real pain in the ass. And so I ended up replacing and switching it over to the Geo Directory plugin and theme and suite of tools that Geo Directory offers. And I just converted my Tree Care HQ directory site about 2 weeks ago over to that. And it's funny, the reason I started telling you that was because I have not been prospecting like actively or proactively prospecting for tree service clients, because I've been working on my link building business. And yet I'm still getting inbound leads because of my directory. I've had 3 inbound leads this week alone, like just since Monday. It's only Wednesday. I get a minimum of 2 inbound leads for my agency every single week from my directory site. And this week I've had 3, and it's only Wednesday. So it just goes to show you that like it's a fantastic strategy. I can't say enough good things about it. It's been by far the most successful prospecting and sales method that I've used since I started my digital marketing career, which was about 12 years ago. I opened my agency 10 years ago. And so anyway, all of that is to let you know that the SOPs, 6 out of 7 of them are already available in the mastermind. It's the only place that you can get them. So I'd encourage you guys to join. On top of that, we have the Google Business SOP, which once I'm done with the directory SOPs, I'm going to start. I've got some more updates to add to the Google Business Profile SOP. So just a lot of really good stuff going on at the mastermind. I'm working 13, 14 hours a day right now so that I can make sure that I get everything done that I want to get done for you guys. So come check it out in the mastermind, join us and see. One of my link building clients actually today just joined the mastermind. We had a consultation call regarding link building stuff. And on the call, we just happened to mention that I, do local SEO training, and he joined. It was awesome. So welcome to him. And yeah, come join and check it out.
Yeah, definitely. Link for the mastermind is as well in the comment section. So you also mentioned the link building series, like you didn't get into that. Like, what am I missing here?
Yeah, well, thanks. And I appreciate you bringing that up, because so Vasco, he was a former semantic mastery. Well, he has followed us for years, but anyways, he's was a provider on Legit. And apparently he's no longer on Legit, but he started his own kind of, freelancer marketplace called Vetted with 3 T's. Vetted, like VETTTED.com. So Vetted with 3 T's. And he reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to, add a service or any services to his platform. And so I took him up on it, and I spent several hours on Saturday developing a product for link building to offer on Vetted. It's super niche relevant links for local SEO. And I launched that on Saturday, or I at least submitted it on Saturday. I got it approved, I think Sunday. And I've already had 3 orders come through, which is awesome. And so I'm just going to share that with you guys. I'm not here to promote or pitch my done for you services, other than I'm asking if anybody's interested in this, for local link building. It's not, my link building business, Semantic Links, that is a monthly. I mean, I have some one-off services there, but that's more for like white label fulfillment services for local SEO agencies and consultants. In other words, local SEO consultants and agencies bring their clients to me, and then I do the white label link building. So, and they remain the point of contact with their clients and that kind of thing. I don't like, they sell SEO services to their clients, but then they bring their link building to me. That's like a monthly subscription. That's different. These are, and it's slightly different. The way that I build links for the The service that I've launched on Vetted is a little bit different than what I'm selling for my link building clients. They're very similar in many respects, but there is some slight differences too. So the reason I'm telling you this is because what I'm looking to do is, hopefully, if anybody's interested in this, they can purchase from, I'll post the link in just a minute in the chat area. But I'm hoping to get some Semantic Mastery audience members to purchase links from that service on Vetted, so that it can help to get me some reviews and get some attention to that service. So anyway, let me just grab the screen real quick, and then we'll get into questions. I do not have a presentation prepared for today, guys, for the local SEO agency stuff. I ran out. I just didn't have the time to get to work on that today. So this is the service. I'll post the link, guys. It's vetted, vetted.com. And I'll post the link for my service in there. But if you just go to vetted.com/Bradley Benner, all one word, you will see that you'll see I've only got one service launched right now, and it's this one. So niche relevant links for local SEO. Again, this is specific, just you can read through this. I'm not going to read through this, but it's specifically developed for local SEO projects. I use Majestic as my metric of choice. Specifically, topical trust flow was where I spend all of my attention and energy. So I've built a bunch of sites that are they're keyword clustered sites, meaning they're incredibly they're sites that are built entirely around one particular keyword, and they have the most appropriate topical trust flow, like trust flow in the appropriate topical trust flow category. And that's the only metric that I care about. Okay. And that's it. My entire link building methodology has been built around that. It's about topical relevance, period. End of story. I don't give a shit about any of the other metrics. What I care about is topical relevance. I really don't even care about trust flow or topical trust flow. The only reason why I use that as the metric of choice is because it's the only metric that I know of that measures or gauges or assigns a value to topical relevance of external backlink profiles. I don't know of any other tool that does that. And Majestic is by far not perfect, but it's a pretty damn good indicator of the topical categorization of backlink profiles, external link profiles. And so that's why I use it. Again, everything that I've built has been entirely about topical relevance. That's it. I don't care about DA or PA or UR and DR. I don't give a shit about those metrics at all. They mean nothing to me. However, if I can get those metrics too on top of topical relevance metrics, then I'll take them, then bonus, you know what I mean? But that's not what I'm looking for. It's just, that's an added bonus. If I can get high URDR metrics and PADA metrics, that's great. So specifically about topical relevance, these are the topical trust flow categories that I have sites available currently. And specifically, for people that don't use Majestic like I do, then don't really worry so much about what these topical trust flow categories are. What is important is when submitting your order that you submit your Google Business category, or the primary Google Business category for the location that you're submitting. So as you can see, I have topical trust flow categories here that are most appropriate for home service contractors, remodelers, roofers, landscapers, tree services, HVAC, plumbers, pest control, etc. So like home services. Then for these topical trust flow categories, it's most appropriate for attorneys, lawyers, and law firms. And then I also have sites available for health-related stuff like chiropractors, dentists, med spas, weight loss clinics, etc. So that's currently my what I've got available. I've been working on this for months. I'm continuing to add more and more sites to the kind of network that I'm building out, which will give me the ability to offer this to more business types, right? Other types of industries besides what's just shown here. But this is where I've got started. Check it out. If you have any questions, just get signed up on Vetted and then use the chat widget inside Vetted to ask me questions about the service or whatever. I'm happy to try to answer some questions if needed. But check it out, guys. This is the link. Like I said, you can also just go to vetted.com/Bradley Benner and you will see that there. And again, I'm not here to pitch you guys on that. I just wanted to make you guys aware that it's available for one-off services as opposed to a monthly subscription. Very, very powerful links, super topically relevant links, categorized into particular niche categories. So there you go. That's it. I think we're good. Can we move on?
All good.
All right. Then let's get into questions, guys. We'll pick back up on the presentation stuff next week. Okay, it was Ina. She is one of the ones that won a 30-minute consultation with me. I think she already scheduled it. So thank you for that. Looking forward to our call. I believe it's scheduled for next week. Anyway, I think it's scheduled and I'm looking forward to that. I still haven't seen the other one come through yet, but from last week, for those who don't know what I'm talking about, last week was our 400th episode. So we gave away some prizes and stuff like that. And I gave away 2 30-minute consultation calls. And that's always fun. I enjoy that. All right. So first question. Hey guys, do you have any recommendations for white label reputation management software looking to offer clients something for review management, brand mentions, etc.? Bright Local has a good one. And it's only $8 per location per month, which is really inexpensive. And it's a really good service. I don't actually use, I use Bright Local for all my reporting stuff, for all my client reporting. Even my link building clients, I use Bright Local for all that. But they do have a reputation building and management and monitoring kind of stuff that works right into it. That's part of Bright Local. And it's only $8 per month per location. Very inexpensive, very effective. I don't use that specifically because I use a Go high level snapshot or a high level snapshot. It's called GHL Smart Reviews because I use high level. But for those of you that aren't using high level, then I think Bright Local would probably be my next choice. If I wasn't using GHL Smart Reviews, which was a snapshot add-on for high level, then I would probably be using Bright Local because I've been using Bright Local since like 2012 or 13, like no kidding. And I use it for all my reporting and everything anyway. So it's a good service, good system. So check that out. So brightlocal.com in case you were unaware of that. Next question. Hey, SM question for Bradley. In the last hump day, someone mentioned USA GMB and you said it can be risky. Does this also apply for service area businesses? Somebody mentioned USA GMB and you said it can be risky. I think this question is missing some context. I don't know what you mean by USA GMB and I said it could be risky. I'm not sure I understand what that means. So let me try to answer the question with what you posted. Does this also apply for service area businesses? I have a contact in the USA which can send me the code or do a video call with Google, thinking of doing something similar to the person who asked last week, but wanted to avoid issues of losing the GMB asset. Okay. I think I understand the question, which is you're not in the US. You want to secure and verify a GMB or Google Business. It's not really GMB anymore, right? That's Google My Business. They rebranded it. It's Google Business Profiles now. Anyway, you want to verify a Google Business profile in the US. You're not in the US. Okay. So the reason I say that it's damn near impossible to do that now. There are certain industries and there are certain circumstances that are few and far between where you can still verify a Google Business profile with like older verification methods. US postal mail, like so you receive a postcard with a verification number, a PIN that you can so if you would request or register a Google Business profile to a business address in the United States, and then they'll send a postcard that has a verification number on it. Once you receive that, you enter that in and it should verify, right? That's how we've done it for years. There's some other methods too. Sometimes you could get phone verification, which was rare. Sometimes you could get email verification, but that was rare as well. The problem is now, even a lot of those that are still getting postcard verification as an option, once they get the postcard and enter the verification code, it then redirects to video verification in many cases. What that means is, like, after you receive the postcard at the business address or the address that you claimed that the business is located at, then you enter the verification number and it should publish, but instead it's redirecting to video verification, meaning now they want more verification besides just receiving the postcard and entering in the verification number. Now that what they want is a video of the establishment, the place of business, showing that it is indeed a business at that location. So they want to see signage. They want to see, other verification things to verify or confirm that it is a real valid business at that location. And even those that don't require, like sometimes you'll still get a postcard and plug the verification number in and it will accept it and not force a video verification. But then shortly thereafter, sometimes it's minutes, sometimes it's days. But shortly thereafter, it suspends. It suspends the Google business listing or Google business profile. So that's why I'm saying it's risky right now. Like it's very difficult to even get it verified to begin with. But once you get it verified, they're also very easy to get. It's easily suspended is what I'm saying. And I know this, like I had 4 of my long time. One of them I've had for over 8 years, Google business profiles. I had 4 of them suspended last week and I didn't do a damn thing to them and they just got suspended. And I actually expected it was for a multi-location project. I had 13 locations for. I really assumed that I would lose all of them after the first 4 went in 2 days. And so I really just assumed that I was going to lose all of them. And knock on wood, I've still got 9 out of 13. So, but I really don't expect them to last now. And that sucks because I've had some of those for many, many years. And the reason I'm telling you that is because it's becoming like Google is just really cracking down on fighting spammed listings. So it's going to be very difficult. I don't know that you'll be able to verify it if you don't have a real valid business location. Even if you can get a postcard to a location, if it requires video verification, it's likely you won't be able to get it verified and published. If they don't require video verification and you do get it you do get it published, there's a good chance that within a matter of minutes, hours, or days, it's going to be suspended. So that's why I said it's just very difficult to do. And that's precisely why I've been working on developing some alternative methods for generating leads that don't require Google business locations. If that makes sense. And that's specifically because my own business is a lead generation. I do agency client work as well. But my preferred method has always been lead gen. So owning the assets and then generating leads for other companies. And that way, I much prefer that over client work any day of the week. Does that make sense? And so I want to, the not being able to verify Google business profiles for like the last 7 months or so has put a hurt on my business. And so therefore I, finally reached a point where I said, okay, enough's enough. I've got to develop some other methods. And I've been working on that for a couple of months now. And that's what I'm going to be sharing with everything that I've developed at POFU Live, at POFU Live at the end of September. So hopefully that answers your questions. What I'm trying to tell you is you're probably not going to be able to get a Google business profile verified. If you can do it, it's very easy for them to be suspended now too. So it's a real pain in the ass, guys. It is what it is, but this is the cat and mouse game that we play in SEO with Google, right? Next question. Hey guys, I picked up some awesome domains recently with some great backlinks, one of which is casino related. Thinking of using these to spin up some WordPress directory sites for lead gen efforts like Bradley mentioned. Never done anything with casino though, so not sure how to approach this. Would it something that is like selling? Would it be something? I'm sorry. Would it something that is like selling links? I'm not sure what that means. Also, would there be spam issues with the listings linking out to casino sites? Always heard that any links casino related means spam or potential penalty issues, but never done anything in the space itself. I will be enforcing content to make sure the listings are at least 800 to 1500 words and unique with good quality before anything goes live, but wanted to get your opinions on the best way to approach this. Okay. So a few things about this. Number one, I don't know anything about the casino industry. But the directory model that I've, developed that I talk about often is about prospecting. It's a method for initiating a conversation with your ideal prospects. That's what that's about. So unless if your ideal prospect are casino owners or casino businesses, then this makes sense, right? It would make sense to create a casino directory site, right? And then you could use that as a prospecting tool, a method, and a conversation starter with, owners or executives of casinos, right? And that's a great way to do it. That's why I kind of developed that method. As far as, let's see, would this be something that is like selling links? You can, like, for example, I use my directory site as I mentioned, as a prospecting tool, right? Prospecting and sales method. But for any client or any my own lead gen assets in the tree service industry, I will also, just so you know, on my directory site, all my links are no follow. So all external links are no follow on the directory site. No follow links provide SEO value, guys. Don't ever let anybody tell you different. Anybody tells you no follow links don't provide SEO value is full of shit. They don't know what they're talking about. SEO value, no follow links still provide SEO benefit, but they don't pass link equity. They also don't affect anchor text ratios. And so what I do is I no follow all the links on my directory until or unless a contractor becomes a client, or if it's my own lead gen assets that I have submitted listings to the directory site, then I change that to make the links follow links or do follow links. Does that make sense? And then what I do for clients or for my own lead gen assets, for my own lead gen projects, is on the directory site, I will optimize the page. I optimize the pages for any client, any prospect that replies back to my cold outreach, which I haven't done any of that in months, but I get inbound leads from that still, from the directory site. Like I said, I got 3 this week already. It's only Wednesday. So anytime somebody submits a listing, a user submitted listing, or if it's from my outreach, my prospecting, my cold outreach, if they reply back to confirm their contact information or the contact information that I had for their company is correct, then we still optimize their listing, their page. Like we'll go in and we'll add their logo, and we'll, fully develop, like fully flesh out their business description. We'll add, a couple of photos and a video if we can find that. We'll add their Facebook page and, just add some additional detail to optimize their listing. However, only clients or my own lead gen assets get their links turned to follow. And then we'll do other things like add schema, like structured data, things like that. And we'll flesh out the content even more. Generally, it's not required to have, like you said, 1,800 to 1,500 words. It's a directory site. Just keep that in mind. Directory sites are different. They kind of play by a different set of rules. You don't really need that much content. Like, in fact, 3 to 500 words would be more than enough for a directory page, if that makes sense. So I don't think you really need to do that. You say you will be enforcing content to make sure the listings are, and I don't think that's necessary at all. And the reason, again, that I say that is because I have a few content pages on my directory site that help the directory to rank, but the individual listing pages, it's not really all that necessary. However, as I mentioned, like, you can turn your directory site into a link building opportunity for clients, and then you can use your directory site as your primary link building target when doing work for clients. Like, in other words, so something that I like to do is put a client's tree care, company on the directory site, and then and turn the links to follow, add structured data. I'll work the Google map embed into their directory listing, that kind of stuff, add structured data. And then I'll use the directory page as a primary link building target for external link building. That way, in case they ever decide, because why do I do that? Because number one, I own the directory, so I control that asset, which means if I'm doing all of my external link building for the client to the directory page, I'm powering up my directory. My directory site will benefit from the links that I'm building to that one specific page, their listing, right? And if the client decides that they don't want to pay me any longer, that they don't need me anymore because they got ranked or whatever the case may be, I can always no follow their links again, which means they stop benefiting from all the external links that I built to the directory page, but my directory still benefits from all those links, right? So I don't throw away or waste all that work that I would have done had I built links directly to their site. So, and I do that with a number of assets, not just my directory, but a few other things as well, so that I can maintain control of the work that I've done. And if the client decides they don't want to pay me anymore, they don't need me anymore because they're ranked, and that happens a lot in the tree service industry, especially in the winter when things start to slow down. That's when I have a lot of churn in my business on a yearly basis because it's a seasonal business. And so a lot of what I've learned to do over the years is to control the assets that I'm going to be building links to, so that if the client or when the client decides that they don't need me anymore, I can manipulate those assets to push that link equity somewhere else where I can benefit from it, or another client can benefit from it, if that makes sense. So I don't lose all that work. So that's why I'm saying the directory stuff that you're mentioning here, yes, it can be used as a link building opportunity to provide links to your target clients. But what I use it more is a buffer site, so that I can benefit my own asset, right? My own asset can benefit from the external links while still providing a benefit to the client until the client decides they don't want to be a client anymore. And then I maintain the benefit while eliminating that benefit from them, taking that away from them, if that makes sense. And so anyway, just to kind of show that again, just to point this out, you guys will see what I mean. And I don't have any, tree service, or we can even say tree company directory. Let's look for that one. We don't usually look for that one. There it is right there. We'll open that up. And here's kind of an example of like this guy here. He contacted me last week. This was and actually had a cold call. Like he cold called me asking me if I could do some lead generation services for him in Louisville, Kentucky. Anyway, so this is what I would consider kind of an optimized profile on a very basic level, because he's not a client yet. So this is like whenever we have a user submitted or user generated listing, which is, this one was actually like I said, the contractor called me and left me a voicemail message, and I reached back out to him. This one was a user generated listing, and I've got the 3 pending that came in this week that I have not approved yet. But you can see that this is what I mean. Like this one, we removed the address for anyway, what I'm trying to say is when a client or a prospect either submits their listing because they're an inbound lead, like a user submitted listing, or if they reply to my cold outreach when I'm doing cold outreach, then whenever they reply back to either confirm that the information that I had about their company was correct, or to correct information that I had that was not correct, to provide updated information like, hey, yes, that information is correct, except the phone number is this, right? Whatever that it may be, or the web address is wrong, this is the correct web address, or whatever it is. Whenever we get somebody replies to the cold outreach, or if it's a user submitted listing, then we go in and just do some basic optimization, which is what you see here. Okay. And then there's also other listings. I'd have to go find them because they're buried now under a bunch of new listings that were added. But some of the listings in here have been fully optimized, which means like they've got schema added, Google Map embeds, that kind of stuff. H tags, all that, a little bit more content. I don't think I've gone 800 words but I've done, 300 to 500 words typically for a fully optimized listing. And then, like I said, it becomes link building targets, one of the primary tier 1 assets for for my clients. So, and I maintain control over that. And if I were to take like this, oops, that's interesting. Oh, that's the homepage. If we were to take this right here and go view this in Chrome, where I have a no follow highlighter, you'll see that their links are all no followed. See that? You can see that like red outline, that these are all no followed external links unless they were a client. And if they were a client or one of my own assets, then I would change those to where the Facebook link would still be no follow, but their money site link. And then I would also add the Google business website link if they had one. And then also a Google map embed. Like I can disable this map embed. This is just a generic map with their where they're physically located. This is not a Google business map. But like I said, I can disable this map on a listing basis, right? On a per listing basis, and then just do a regular Google business map embed. And so that's kind of what I do is I use this as a way to manage or maintain control for this as well as other assets. There are some other assets that I do the same thing with, if that makes sense. Okay. I've learned to do that over the years because in my industry, like I said, every single winter, I lose about 60% of the clients that I picked up during the spring and summer. It's a real pain in the ass every single year I go through that. So I try to maintain as much control as possible. Anyways, that was a good question. Next one, when building link building SEO packages for monthly client retainers, how do you factor in costs for cloud stacks like Google Cloud, Amazon S3? Do you put them in your own account and just charge for the build of the site? Or do you add a fixed fee and put it in as a subscription? I just don't want to get caught out in case the cloud sites get much traffic and incur costs from AWS or the other cloud providers. I mean, it's insane. I've got over 5 S3 accounts right now, each with a minimum of 500 S3 buckets. And some of them have 1,000 S3 buckets, which, by the way, guys, you can, in case you didn't know this, in Amazon, you can request a bucket limit increase. And I've already done that multiple times with some of the accounts. And that's because there's a 100 bucket limit by default, but you can always request to have your limits increased. And it's generally an easy process. Within 24 to 48 hours, you'll get it increased. Just tell them that you want to host more HTML sites. That's all you got to do, and they'll increase your bucket limit. And the reason I started saying that was because I know for sure I've got over 700 HTML sites hosted on Amazon. And and I get literally $25 per month bills from Amazon, and that's it. And that's with like 700 HTML sites hosted on Amazon. And I run traffic through them, like through tier 1 links. I don't do it through tier 2s, but through tier 1 links, I run CTR booster referral traffic. So I use CTR booster to run referral traffic through tier 1 links. And that's where you get charged. It's not really storage, it's the bandwidth. And again, and I've got hundreds of sites on Amazon S3, and I'll get a bill for $25 and some change right now. It's been going up. 4 or 5 months ago, I'd get a bill for $3, $4. But my link building business continues to grow, so we're adding more and more sites and increasing speed with the speed in which we add sites. So it's growing, but it's nominal. I'm just telling you this because it's not something that you really need to worry about unless you're running a lot of traffic through the cloud sites, which most of the cloud sites aren't really going to get traffic unless you're intentionally sending traffic through them, then I wouldn't worry about it. It is such a nominal charge. It's not worth bothering with. Okay. So again, for my link building clients, because we host the sites on cloud storage, they, the way that I do it is I charge on a domain rebuild. I call them rebuilds. They're not really rebuilt domains, but they're reclaimed domains. But I call them rebuilds. That's just the title I gave it when I started this. So whenever somebody buys links from me, we go out and purchase domain. We find domains that are in their appropriate topical trust flow category for what they need. We purchase them. We build out well-optimized content, 1,000+ words, articles that are optimized for the topic that they need to be optimized for. And then we host those pages on cloud storage, HTML sites on cloud storage. That's how every single one of the sites are built. And that the client gets that domain. It's exclusively used for them for an entire year. And at the end of the year, when the domain's up for renewal, the client gets the opportunity. They have the option to renew the domain for $25 per domain per year. And that covers the cost of renewing the domain and hosting for another year. So that builds $15. That's a $15 fee to renew the domain and $10 for a year of hosting, which covers any sort of charge that I could possibly get from Amazon S3 or Google Cloud Storage or whatever for hosting that domain for the year. Does that make sense? So that's what I do. I just charge but for agency clients, I don't charge them. I mean, it's just part of their retainer. Remember, I've got my link building business, and then I have my agency clients, which are tree contractors, and some older clients that I have that are in other industries. And so for them, whenever I build sites, I don't, that's just part of the retainer fee. And if they stop being clients, I can always just, delete those cloud pages or point the link somewhere elsewhere, if that makes sense. Okay. What I'm saying is, don't worry about those charges. They're such a small, it's like literally pennies per month. It's just ridiculous. All right. Question for Bradley. I've been in local SEO a while and ranked for some local and state keywords, but wanting to diversify, excuse me, and move towards ranking my own sites. What would you recommend is the simplest way to get into lead gen? I will need to rank in stages as capital is allocated, but how would you go with leads? Number one, charge out whole site for a fixed fee, or charge per lead, or route call through a center and charge for converted lead. I'm thinking 3 is best, but I don't know about getting my own call center going or if it can be outsourced. If so, what software or services would be best? Thanks. Appreciate all this stuff. Awesome stuff you guys put out, or you guys share in methods. Okay. So there's benefits and there's pros and cons to each one of the 3 methods you mentioned. The easiest way to do it is to just rank and rent, right? So that's lease out the site, rank it and lease it out for a flat monthly fee. It doesn't matter how many calls it gets, how many form fills it gets, how many leads it generates. You just charge a flat monthly fee for the site because it's ranked. Like that's it. Like obviously it should be generating leads, or else you won't keep whoever's renting it from you for long. So you've got to rank it for keywords that are going to generate leads for sure. But all you charge is a flat fee. That's the easiest thing to manage. It's the easiest way to get started too, by the way. Yes, you can leave money on the table, but it is the easiest to manage because you don't have to have the infrastructure in place to track leads and bill for leads. That's one of the things that you have to overcome fairly quickly if you're going to do on a pay per lead basis, is you have to have some sort of system in place that will qualify leads. What qualifies a lead as a billable lead, right? Is it duration of call? There's a number of things that you can do on that end, but you also have to track the calls that came in, which is easy to do with virtual phone numbers, right? Tracking phone numbers, or form fills. If you're, you can just use your own form, which can be done with WordPress or Jot form or high level or whatever. So you can track how many leads have been generated. And then you have to determine out of the leads, like the number of calls, which calls are billable leads, because a lot of those calls are going to be spam calls, robocalls, solicitation calls, Home Advisor, Angie, service, House Call Pro is another one. Like we're getting hammered with solicitation calls for a lot of my clients are from a lot of these types of companies. So that's why I'm saying you have to have some sort of process in place that will, let's say you get 20 calls in a week, but only 6 of them were actually valid leads because 14 of them were spam calls. Then you have to be able to have something in place that will identify as out of 20 calls, 6 of them are billable leads. And then how do you collect payment on those? Do you get paid up front, which is what I recommend? Or do you get paid? Do you bill the customer after the fact on a weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly basis for the number of leads, valid, qualified billable leads that were generated? So there's a number of things you have to take into account. Personally, if you're going to do pay per lead, I would recommend probably Lead Simplify, which is Mike Martin's product. Lead Simplify. Check it out. We have an affiliate link for it, but I don't know, Chris, if you want to try to find that or not, but it's called Lead Simplify. It's Mike Martin's product. That's a really good way for pay per lead, where you actually require the lead buyer to purchase credits inside the system. So they have to pre-fund their account with credits. They have to buy credits. They have to spend money to have credits available, which then they can purchase leads using credits. So you get paid up front. That's why I liked using leads. And I still use Lead Simplify myself. I've got a handful of contractors that are still on the pay per lead model. Most of them are on equity share now, or revenue share, I should call it. It's not equity share, it's revenue share. But so if you're going to do on a pay per lead basis, I would recommend that you use something like Lead Simplify. There's other services out there that do it, but I use Lead Simplify myself. It's Mike Martin's product. That's what I would recommend on a pay per lead basis. Routing the calls through a call center. I do that anyways, even for my pay per lead clients. I do that because I learned a long time ago that generating a lead, if the phone's not answered when a lead calls and to seek a business, like in search of an estimate or whatever, that's the quickest way to lose a lead, right? Like if it's your job to generate the lead, then that's great. But if nobody answers the phone, that's a lost lead, right? They're not going to leave a voicemail. And even if they do, by the time somebody gets to the voicemail and calls them back, they've already called another contractor or company to get their problem resolved. Does that make sense? So I've been running all of my lead gen calls through a call center since 2013 or maybe 2014, but a long time, like 8 or 9 years, no kidding. And I use Answer Connect for that. I know that I've been happy with Answer Connect. I've been using the same company for many, many years since I started using. This is it here. And I've been using them since, like I said, 2013 or 2014. So 8 or 9 years. And I'm happy with them. I know some of the mastermind members, our mastermind members, said that they weren't happy with Answer Connect and they went with some other services. I'm not changing. I'm happy with them. Another one that I know of, some people use, is called Pat Live. There's also, I think, Ruby. Ruby is another one. So there's a number of these kind of like answering services. Like I said, I've used this service right here for 8 or 9 years. I'm happy with them. I've always had really good results as far as dealing with their support whenever I need support for stuff. So I'm happy with them. I won't change. So that's what I would recommend. Pay-per-call is, again, you're probably going to, the easiest thing to manage, rank and rent, because it requires the least amount of effort on your part other than to just collect payments on a monthly basis and keep the site ranked. Pay per lead, you got to track everything. And you're going to have conversations with your lead buyers at sometimes about what qualifies as a billable lead, unless you run all of your calls through a call center first. And then when the call center, because the call center acts as the screener, the call screener, right? That's why I love to run everything through a call center, not just because somebody answers the phone when somebody calls. There's always 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. It's always somebody answering the phone with a call center. That's one of the reasons. But the other reason is the call center screens all the calls. So it eliminates spam calls, robocalls, solicitation calls, sales calls. It eliminates all of that shit from ever even getting to the lead buyer, right? Their phone's not going to get blown up with a bunch of robocalls. Their phone is only going to notify them when it's a real valid lead that's been pre-screened by the answering service. So that's why I've for years, I've run all of my lead calls through a call center, specifically for that reason. But then there's also the equity share model, revenue share model, which is what I do with a lot of my contractors, but that requires even more kind of tracking and all that kind of stuff, verification, all of that. And so we won't get into that today. That's beyond the scope of the amount of time that we have right now anyway. But for that, I use high level. And I run all of I only have a few pay per lead clients or lead buyers left right now. Almost every of my tree contractors now are on revenue share. And I use what I call a lead management app that it's just a sub account snapshot that I built in high level that I have all of my lead buyers that are on revenue share. I force them to subscribe to that app for $100 a month. And then we use the app to track all the leads. And that's how I know that I'm not getting cheated. So anyway, like I said, the easiest way to get started is rank and rent. And I would highly suggest that you get your feet wet there before trying pay per lead. Once you have some success with being able to monetize your ranked assets by just renting it out for a flat monthly fee, then you can progress or graduate up to pay per lead and then possibly revenue share at a later date. But start with number one, rank and rent. It's the easiest way to get started. Okay, don't overcomplicate it. Hey, Bradley, I bought an expired domain and I've noticed the trust flow on the www version has all the metrics, but without www it's 0. How do I use that to pass the most trust flow to my links? Thank you. Well, it depends on how you're doing it. If you're going to build the site out instead of just doing a redirect, then you want to build the site out on and make the www version of that site the primary URL. So you want to set a canonical in the HTML header, right? That sets the canonical to the www version of the URL. And then also you can add an htaccess file depending on where you're hosting it. You can add an htaccess file, which has a redirect to the www version, the non-www version of the domain to the www version of it, right? So that's an htaccess directive that you can add depending on what kind of host. Some of the cloud hosts won't allow that. Also, if you want, you could use, if it's HTTPS, right? So if it requires SSL, then you could use Cloudflare and then use flexible SSL and then set up a page rule to always redirect to the www version of the URL as well. Does that make sense? So there's a number of ways that you can do it. It just depends on how are you hosting the site. Does it require SSL? If it does, then use flexible SSL with a Cloudflare. If you're hosting on Amazon S3, you can't do that with Rackspace. Depends on where you're hosting it. So it's going to vary depending on which kind of cloud host you're using. Also, like I said, depends on if you're building it out or if you're just doing a redirect. If you're going to do a redirect, I talked about this in the mastermind. I prefer to use what's called a meta refresh. And then you can install an HTML, just a very simple HTML file in the cloud storage slot, whether it's a S3 bucket or Google Cloud Storage or whatever. You can upload an HTML file that is essentially nothing other than an HTML header with what's called a meta refresh in the HTML header. And you can force, you'd still put a canonical in there to the www version of it, but then you would set the meta refresh to redirect to whatever your target is. And I don't recommend doing that for money site links, only to buffers if you're going to do redirects. And again, using the meta refresh method. And again, I teach all of this stuff in the mastermind, guys. I can't get into that here. This is a free forum. I'm not going to get into that here, but if you want to learn like exactly what I do in my link building business, I mean, 100%, I teach everything that I do in my link building business in the mastermind. And what's funny is about 60% of my link building clients are mastermind members. It's funny. I teach them exactly what to do. And then people say, well, that's awesome. It's too much work. Will you do it for me? Yes, I can do that for you. So, but here's how you can do it. You know what I mean? So and a lot of our mastermind members are doing it, which is great. You know, that's why I teach it. So you guys can do it in-house, do it yourself. So if you want to learn how to do that, come join the mastermind. But as I just mentioned, it depends on what, how you're hosting it. What are you going to do with that link? I prefer to build the sites out over redirects. And so most of the time I'm building the sites out. Like I said, we set a canonical and HTML header. We'll add an htaccess file for those that will allow us to do it. And then in some cases, we will use page rules but you have to have the Cloudflare icon turned on. So the reverse proxy turned on in Cloudflare in order to use page rules. And you can do that, by the way. You can do that with Amazon S3 without using SSL. So that's, you just turn, in Cloudflare, you would turn the SSL to off, right? I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but if the site requires that HTTPS, if the most powerful version of the URL has HTTPS, then you can use Amazon S3 with Cloudflare as your DNS provider, and then set flexible SSL turned on with the Cloudflare icons turned on, and then you set flexible SSL on in Cloudflare, right? And then that works beautifully. If it doesn't have SSL, you can, as long as you're still hosting on S3, it won't work with Rackspace and some of the other ones as well, but you can still host on Amazon S3 and still use Cloudflare as your DNS. You just turn flexible the SSL settings to off. But you would have to still have the Cloudflare icon turned on, which changes the IP of the site, which is okay because one of the reasons why I love using Cloudflare is because there are millions of sites on the Cloudflare IP blocks or ranges. So you're like hiding in the middle of a big freaking crowd. And that's a good thing, right? It's better than having like unique IP. So I mean, it's a good thing. Like I like using Cloudflare for hiding footprints. So whenever you turn the reverse proxy on, so the cloud icon turned on, you change the IP address from what the IP address was of the bucket that you were hosting on originally to one of the blocks, the IP ranges that are in Cloudflare, which will vary depending on which Cloudflare account you're using. So anyway, to get full details on how to do all that, come join the mastermind. Okay, guys, that's it. I mean, that was just perfect timing.
Right on time, man.
Like
Perfect.
We meant to do that.
Yep.
All right, everybody. Thanks everybody for being here. We'll see some of you in the mastermind tomorrow and the rest of you next week.